Not time to go yet, but that's what you were thinking. All right, so let's talk about new material, stuff that is not on test 1B. Hoping this will not devolve into a read-my-mind exercise. I have two objects, A going to the right, B going to the left. They are going to collide, just say at that point right there. That is where they collide. They move a little bit, eventually they will separate at this point. And afterwards, A, despite the fact that they all my A's look a little bit different, they're all supposed to be the same. B, and all the B's are supposed to look the same. So they head towards each other, they collide at the first dotted line, they'll move a little bit, then they'll separate, and A and B will go their separate ways. While they are in contact with each other, there are three things that are the same for both objects. Three quantities that would be the same for both objects. Hint, one of them is so incredibly obvious, most people don't get it.
Gravity due to acceleration.
Gravity due to acceleration.
No. Acceleration due to gravity. We're making money with that one.
Acceleration due to gravity, there's only these two things in this universe.
Oh.
I don't complicate it with another body. Unless you want to talk about the gravitational force they exert on each other, but.
No.
Okay. Because Ibrahim doesn't want to talk about it, we won't.
Normal force.
What about the normal force?
It exists.
Would they be the same? Because when a force of one thing exerts another force on the other one, it has to resist that equal amount.
All right, so what's the same?
The normal force?
Magnitude?
Yes.
The magnitude.
The amount, you said amount at some point, but the forces are not the same again, different directions. All right, so that's one of them. I'm gonna write that in shorthand notation. The force on A from B is equal to the negative force of B on A, or I guess in the context of this, drop the vectors, FAB equals, or probably better. The magnitude of the forces, all right. Having gone through this again, let me just to assure you, this takes care of the forces. Whatever the force they exert on each other, the magnitude of the force they exert on each other are the same. You don't need to bring up forces again.
Okay.
So there's no friction or anything?
Was that?
There's no friction or anything?
Doesn't matter if there is or not, this covers it all. Let's add a little bit of danger to this.
Okay.
So there's two more
Physics
things?
man.
There are two more things.
Well, if they collide and bounce off of each other in completely different directions, I would say they have to have the same amount of mass, or because if one
Okay then.
There's nothing that says the masses have to be the same.
Is this something that we can, is it something that we can guess from previous knowledge in the course?
Yeah, well, there are a limited number of quantities that we've actually used.
Velocity is something to do with this here.
Well, they start out going this way and they end up going that way, so velocity can't be the same the entire time.
can we get a hint? First letter of the word.
It's like correction, or would the hint give us it immediately?
All right, the one that's really, that most groups have struggled with, the one that's so incredibly obvious, here's a hint. It's the name of a Bobby Sherman song.
I don't know who that is.
Who?
I've had only one student who has known who Bobby Sherman was. And that, he was older than I was, older than I am, and had been to a Bobby Sherman concert, because his sister was a fan. 70s hard rock. Tiger Beat kind of material. I don't know if Tiger Beat's still around.
Acceleration.
If their masses are different and the forces are the same, the acceleration can't be the same.
Well, I'm not saying it's the same.
Well,
It has
the
to-
question
that's
is,
what
what is the same?
Oh.
What is the same for both objects while they are in contact with each other?
Yeah, what's this?
All the forces taken care of. All right, here's another, one's a scalar and one's a vector. I don't know if that helps at all. The Bobby Sherman song is the scalar.
Distance.
What distance?
When you say what distance is in like
The distance of what?
the change in distance between the two.
The change in
Displacement,
the displacement of,
object A and B.
all right, so if they meet here and they end here, A is gonna go from that, think about the middle of it, go from there to there, B is gonna go from there to there, so displacement.
Cut them. All right.
Here's the vector.
Can you explain that one more time? So you said A will move in the same direction that B moves in?
Yeah, from the point of contact to the point of separation, they would move the same amount. Same direction, same amount.
Would they also have the same position?
No, if you're generally considering the middle as the position of it, then definitely not.
Kill him now.
It's an electroscope. That'll have more meaning next semester.
Huh. Now, are you just gonna stop at the 2 arms, or are we gonna give him a scarf and a hat? I personally.
I think you can.
I've never done the scarf and hat before. I've never seen that done.
I think you have to give them fingers and toes.
Fingers and toes I've done before, but at that point, you may as well just say every word in the dictionary.
We already said that.
No, you said this place.
So you're going for distance?
I mean, yes, if we're talking about only when they're in contact with each other. Maybe.
I would consider that sort of bundled under displacement, so I'm not gonna add another body part for that. It's the scalar part, that's the Bobby Sherman song.
Time.
Time. The song goes, just so you know, time, we all die
A
sometime.
time for us?
Not time for us, I think it's just time.
It's just time to see.
No matter who you are or what you do, we all gotta go, we all gotta die sometime. It's an upbeat song.
Oh, they don't have
It was the early 70s, come on.
Oh, they didn't put it on the Google thing. That's why I was confused. I couldn't find anything.
In other words, they touch each other for the same amount of time, or whatever force is involved, they exert that force on each other for the same amount of time. And which is seemingly incredibly obvious, but most people don't think about that. So, if the reason I do this is just the morbid curiosity of how long it's gonna take each group to figure it out. But if I combine these two concepts here, I get into work and energy. That's the next chapter. If I combine these two things, so the forces and the time, I get into impulse and momentum, which is the chapter or chapters after the work and energy. Part of this also is that as we get into work and energy, as we look at the exact same problems, but from a different point of view, Newton's laws are still in there. And at that point, the clock says it's time to go.
Has any, I don't know if you've done the hangman with every class, but has anyone never gotten any hangman parts?
I usually want students to think of it, so I have gone to fingers and toes before. But it mainly comes down to, after I've done the announcement of, we've taken care of forces, don't mention forces anymore. And then someone mentions forces, and I go, don't need to do forces anymore, and then someone else does forces, and at that point, I start adding actual body parts. I will see all of you tomorrow. We get to sling things around in a circle.